Hey, this is Seth Christensen here with the Business 3610 Intro to Entrepreneurship class. I'm here to present Seth's ideas for what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur in place of my web key presentation. I came up with 7 ideas that I thought were necessary traits of a successful entrepreneur. The 7 traits I came up with were bravery, creativity, persistence, malcontent, dreamer, work ethic, and organizer. The first trait I came up with was bravery. Bravery is a necessary trait for a successful entrepreneur because you can't be afraid of failure. You've got to be willing to go it alone. In a lot of cases, you're the only fan of your product. You're the only one pushing it forward, the only proponent of it. There's not always going to be people standing beside you. You're not always going to be a gigantic conglomerate from day one. You've got to be willing to hear the word no. It's not always going to be success stories and fun and roses and pretty nice things. You've got to be strong enough that you're ready for risks. You know, profits aren't guaranteed for any entrepreneur. No matter how good you are at business, you may or may not be successful, and that takes bravery in order to be ready for those risks. Another trait that I feel like is a necessary trait of a successful entrepreneur is creativity. You've got to have an original idea if you're going to start a business. You can't just copycat off someone else and expect it to take off. You can't ever stop innovating. There's going to be roadblocks in any business. There's going to be things that come up and get in your way of being successful that might stop you from getting done what you need to get done. You have to invent solutions. It takes creativity. There's no, handbook for it. There's no way of saying that this is what will work and this is what won't. Every business is inherently individual, and you have to be able to invent the solutions to get past the individual roadblocks that come up for you. How are you going to make it work? How are you going to outdo your competitors? Everything from marketing to business plans in entrepreneurship involves creativity. Persistence is another trait that I feel like is really critical. What happens when you hit a dead end? Do you give up the first time things get hard? Is it something that you're only going to do it when it's convenient? Is it something you'll only do when it's easy? If that's the case, you're not going to be a successful entrepreneur. Being successful in business requires persistence. You have to try again. You have to be willing to take alternate routes. Are you willing to be brave and creative in finding solutions to the problems that come up? You have to keep trying, and keep trying. That dogged determination is really the one constant quality among all successful entrepreneurs. They don't give up until they get where they're going. Malcontent. This is a trait that I think a lot of people may or may not agree with when it comes to being a successful entrepreneur, but I feel like it's important. If you're content with that status quo, if you're okay with sitting where you're at, if you want to stand still and let life go ahead and just go with the flow, you're not going to do well as an entrepreneur. You've got to be moving forward. You have to be aggressive. You have to be willing to take risks and push ahead to get where you want to go in business. If you're the type that can just stay stagnant all the time, you'll be just trampled by all the new entrepreneurs, by all the new businesses, by the existing businesses. You've got to be never content to hold still. There's a quote that I heard from Becky Anderson that I like, that I feel like kind of demonstrates this malcontent quality I'm talking about. And she said, "It's the fast that eat the slow, not the big that eat the small." And what I feel like she meant by that is simply that if you're the one moving ahead, you're going to get ahead of your competitors regardless of size. How can you make your company more? That's the question for a malcontent. A dreamer. Now this is another kind of important quality here. I feel like if you can't dream and if you can't think outside the box, come up with something new, something that's got value that hasn't been thought of before, how are you ever going to move ahead of the competition in the industry? A lot of the advances within the last 10 years that have been major impacts upon society and business as a whole, they have been the result of seemingly odd dreams at the time. If you think back to before these innovations came out, what it would have sounded like to hear about them, it might have sounded something like, someday we're going to talk to each other with our thumbs. That would be texting. Or someday our computers will talk to each other so we can share information. That'd be the internet. Someday we'll be able to talk to each other from the other side of the planet. Cell phones. New products and new success stories come from dreamers, not people who are content to sit where they're at and leave things as they are. Work ethic. This is critical for success in any area of business, but especially as a business owner or entrepreneur. Another quote from Becky Anderson that I enjoyed that illustrates this quality is, "Slacking off once won't kill you, slacking off every day will." And what I feel like she meant by that is that it's not like you have to be all the time never doing anything but work. But if you let that laziness become a habit, if you let taking a break become taking months off or years off, if you're not focused on what needs to get done and doing everything necessary to achieve it, you're not going to be successful as an entrepreneur. A good work ethic is extremely critical. And from the standpoint of an employee, which is, you know, somewhere I've been for the last several years of my life, I've enjoyed seeing bosses that are willing to do whatever they ask me to do. When a boss has a strong work ethic, that inspires me to work harder for them. And so as an entrepreneur, hopefully building a business that will have employees and that will be successful enough to hire others in the future, a good work ethic inspires your workers to work harder for you. Rome wasn't built in a day. How much are you willing to put into making your business a success? How hard will you work? What will you sacrifice? Success takes effort. A final trait that I came up with for a successful entrepreneur is being a good organizer. If you don't know where you're going, how will anyone else? You have to organize yourself, your employees, your financials, your time, your facilities. Organization shows commitment to quality. If you're not focused on making sure that you know where you're going with your time management, what you're going to be doing with your employees, if you don't keep them in line and keep them productive and efficient, if you don't have things organized with your financials, you'll never be financed by a creditor. If you don't have your facilities in order, why would people respect what you're doing if you don't respect what you're doing? You need to show that commitment to quality through your organization. And you know, that's pretty well what I've come up with for the traits that are required to be a successful entrepreneur. And obviously, you know, since it's me that came up with it, it's definitely right. So thanks for your time.